It's time to feel the rage. Join us on Film Rage, where we talk movies, current releases, coming attractions, streaming, and classic films as well. Directors and actors, beware as you cannot hide from the rage. My name is Bryce, and I'm part of the Film Rage crew, which also includes Jim.
Hey, hey.
And Murray.
Yo.
Why is it you always talk all the time? I can't understand why your voice is so...
This is the Merman, the voice of reason. These two can't agree on anything most of the time. Some movies are Mondo, some are just... Every week something is going to make us rage. Join us every Wednesday and
Feel the rage.
It's 20 minutes past noon. The date, October 7th. The place, the Pacific coast of Southern California. 76 degrees, skies clear, the water is warm. Perfect late summer day? Perhaps. But not if this is the beach that you hope to enjoy. Because here, for hundreds of yards, you'll find nothing but desolation and loneliness. A seemingly endless nightmare of terror and violence, bewildering disappearances, and death.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I am your host, Jason Bishop, and with me today, as always, is Sam Stepanenko.
I got my swim trunks on.
That's good.
They're under my jeans and my puffy jacket, but I got them.
And coming in from Planet Vulcan is Trish Coughlin.
It's me. I survived the beach. Get me in the water. I'm good with sharks in the water. I'm just not good on the beach.
And sitting in her spot today is Jim from Film Rage.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Yes, thank you. This podcast would never happen in Chicago.
Today we're going to be talking about a grindhouse classic, a quote-unquote classic. I don't know if it's a classic, but it's definitely grindhouse.
It is definitely grindhouse.
And if we were following Joe Bob Spriggs' rule of blood, breasts, and beasts, it's there. And we got one more B in there.
Yes.
Boom mics.
Yes.
Oh, and beaches. So we got two
And
B's.
beaches. So much B.
So much B.
For a C film.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I remember seeing this a while back, and I kind of loved it at the time. Not so much now.
I don't know. Like, I was watching it, and I'm like, this is terrible. This is terrible. And then I had a wait a minute moment. I'm like, this is actually starting to work for me.
Well, you know what? Despite lenses that look like they're coated with Vaseline, no real camera direction to speak of.
Terrible
dialogue, no plot. There actually
and a boom in a scene for roughly the entire scene.
The entire scene, yeah.
Yeah. You can catch that at 34 minutes if you want to go find it. I wrote down the time code.
But that's also the charm of this movie. It's like they have so many B actors in this, and yet it doesn't take itself seriously at all.
A lot of B and C actors, and John Saxon.
And John Saxon, yes.
Yeah.
Who, he really was in a long slump there, and he was doing a lot of these kind of films.
He peaked and valleyed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's very capable.
There's one moment where he asks the question, what are we doing here? And I felt it was just a very meta statement by John Saxon.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he's only really got like 3 scenes, but boy, he chews them up good.
He does, yeah. No, you know what I did like about this movie is the fact that we are left wondering what is actually happening through the whole movie. Right? I mean, I loved the mystery of that. Was it clumsily handled? Absolutely. Right? It just, there's lots that could be done with it. And they had this really interesting character that I wanted to tie in better to what was actually happening. And we'll get there when we talk about a remake for sure. But yeah, I loved the mystery of it. And I think that's why it worked for me better than I thought it would. It's still not a good film and it was still a painful watch, but it worked better for me than I thought it would.
I liked the sucking down into the sand.
Exactly.
I thought that was very well done.
The effects were like for what they were. I thought the sand sucking, because you know me and my sucking. But anything that's sucked into sand like that, it's like how the freak did they do that? And they had like full body sucking. Yep. They had like just mini sucking. There was just so much sucking going on in this movie. And I agree with you, Sam.
This movie sucks.
Yeah, this movie sucks a lot. But I fully enjoyed it too. I took it for what it was. I was like, I watched it twice actually over the weekend. Because I watched it the first time and then I was like, oh, I got to do the remake. So I went back to watch it again to make sure I got all the dirt on everybody.
I can tell you right now when it comes to fantasy casting, whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's what they did, really. Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, all these actors were established actors, mostly television, but they all had resumes, right? And this movie just didn't quite live up to the capabilities of the cast, because most of the cast, they delivered the shitty dialogue really well.
Yeah. This was on the tail end of that, let's capitalize on Jaws type stuff. And there was a ton of it. So you know, Piranha we've talked about, and they even use the tagline in this. It's like, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, you can't get to the water.
Which is so true.
Yes. And one of my questions in the movie, and this is a very common horror movie question, is, you know, there's something out there. Why the fuck are you walking on the beach?
Well, you heard the one girl that was talking, they interviewed her after the thing, says, well, that was you. That's not me.
And it just goes to show humans, well, it can't happen to me mentality. Yeah.
It's actually really kind of a fitting movie to watch now as we're coming out of the pandemic, really. You think about it. The beast itself could be representative of the pandemic. And as we watch it and you see some of the mentalities of the people, it's like, no, I'm going to ignore it. That's not going to happen to me. Blah, 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 this, right? It's interesting.
Yeah, people still flock to the beach, even though the press has dubbed it Blood Beach. They've had enough killings where it's like, oh, this woman's gone missing. This dog's head was eaten. This rapist pecker.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will warn you right now that unfortunately is starting to become a theme for my October of 2022 as well.
Is
Pecker
destruction?
Pecker destruction, yes.
I got one.
This was my second. I hope the last.
I guess I got two with this one, but I can't count this one. I've seen it before.
That's almost one of my prerequisites for Halloween is this should be some peckers destroyed.
Oh, go back to my list a couple years ago. There were a lot of destroyed peckers.
There's a lot. Sam falls into that trap quite often.
I don't know why. It's not like I go looking for it.
It looks for you.
You know what, Sam? You should just make like a blog listing like all the pecker destruction movies I've seen so that people know. Because you don't know.
I don't know when I start watching it, but I certainly find out.
Well done.
Back to Rat.
Well, this one's got a pretty basic plot. It probably won't take us too long to talk about because you have a beach that's killing people. And they set up scenarios over and over and over again. Okay, well, this Coast Guard is dating an airline stewardess who loses her hat, killed on the beach. Lather, rinse, repeat.
It's interesting that most of the victims, if not all of them, are connected to him somehow. There's, aside from the one girl who only gets injured, all the other characters are either connected to him directly or connected to him through Hoagie.
Yeah, and I think it's because, I mean...
It's a small community, right?
Yeah, it's a small community. He lives there. He works that area. He's Coast Guard, right?
He's, Coast Guard, yeah.
And you saw the people, like, they live in that neighborhood. It's a very tight community. Yeah. They all seem to support each other. Even the homeless person that's part of that community as well. And they all know them. So, I would say it's hard for him not to be connected to somebody in the film.
But I'd like to lean into that a little bit more.
Yes.
Right? And that'd be one of the things I would do is instead of just making him investigating it, he's being looked at by our police because he knows everybody who's been a victim. I think that would make an interesting subplot to the story that's barely there.
Yeah, if they would have kind of made you think that maybe he was a killer. Because even when they're pulled into the sand, you don't know how they're getting pulled in. It could be something
that he's doing. Yeah. Like, because they established he was ex-military or ex-Navy. He has full access to the beach, and he's Coast Guard, so he has access to the police as well. So there's all these things that we could lean into.
You'd want to start it off a bit as a mystery, at least for the cops, because why aren't they thinking killer first, and burying the victims?
Well, and where are the victims? All they know is that somebody's missing.
Yeah. They don't know they're getting sucked into the sand. They know a dog's lost its head. They don't know where they're going until a victim survives. She was buried under sand, as you do at the beach, and got attacked.
Exactly. So, and they're treating it as a murder right away, and that's a bit of a flaw in the storytelling as well.
But why would you assume there's a monster, right? I mean, if you're living in even today's society, you're not going to automatically assume, someone got eaten, it's probably a monster.
There should be a lot of kickback to that theory if anybody even thought about bringing it up. I mean, police officer, if they came up with that theory, they'd probably be like, okay, you're going down to psych.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I want to make our lead a suspect, because then that makes more sense for the police, right?
Because of the constant connection.
Yeah, because to your point, it's like they're investigating something to, he's the one that would be the most incentivized to be the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or at least he's got the clearest connections to them.
Mm.
So whatever his reasons were, I mean, the first victim was the mother of his ex-fiancée, right? Pretty good connection there.
And motive potential.
Yeah, and motive potential. Even though he's very friendly with her, you still could have that motive. The stewardess girlfriend.
Total.
Yeah, total motive, because now his lost love is back.
Yep.
I got to get rid of the dead weight.
Yes. Pun intended, I'm assuming.
Of course. But yeah, so there's lots of opportunities there to really tie it to him. And I mean, the fact that it's a monster later in the movie. And I love the mystery that you don't see it. Well, you never really see it.
Because they couldn't afford it, and I think they didn't know what it was going to look like.
Yes.
And they were constantly changing it. It's like, okay, creature attack, and it's just like a gloved hand, like a lizard-looking thing. I'm like, but that doesn't match what we saw at the end.
That was awesome at the end.
Yeah, and I liked that. I really enjoyed the fact that you don't get that reveal until the very end, and it's brief, obviously for budget reasons, and you know that as you're watching it. But I'd still like to use that type of storytelling and have the monster be a really big reveal to the point where your audience doesn't even know there's a monster until near the end. I think that the scientist guy, I love the bit where he's talking about how if it's a worm, it might be able to regenerate based on its pieces. And I liked that device. It just, unfortunately, because the rest of the movie was so flawed, it just, you had that moment at the end anyhow.
Yeah, where they had exploded it, and then suddenly you see all these tiny little sand holes forming, and these things are starting to grow again, but they're small.
Yeah.
And I would have liked that scene to carry on where people were getting minor attacks on the beach, but there's lots of them, so suddenly it's like Piranha Beach.
Yes.
I was hoping for a part 2 to find out what really happens.
Yeah, I guess it was oddly anticlimactic, but fun at the same time. That ending, I think the abruptness of it is like, and it made sense in the terms of the storytelling, but it just felt really abrupt and it's like, well, we don't know what to do, so we're just going to blow it up.
I think the editing, the story, and everything else, I think they were trying to do that, but they just did such a bad job of it.
I'm not even sure they had a full script. I think they were getting handed pages as they were shooting.
It kind of did have that feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the sets. The set piece, the beach and the houses and all that stuff. I thought they did a good job with what they had. It's just they didn't have much.
No.
I think they must have spent all their budget on the actors, right? Because they would have at least asked a little bit for what they were.
Well, I imagine John Saxon didn't come particularly cheap.
Yeah, and the rest were like I said earlier, established already, so they were probably getting more than scale.
Yeah.
Right, not much more, I don't think, but they would be getting...
They didn't... Or I couldn't find an actual budget for this, but yeah, it couldn't have been a heck of a lot.
No, I don't imagine that it was.
Yeah, because, I mean, the filmmakers behind it certainly weren't very skilled.
Yeah.
That's being generous.
Well, the boom operator, anyway.
But that's a camera issue. Boom's doing his job, but they should be testing. Like, I've done all this, so it's like, am I in? Am I out? And they just keep adjusting until out. Okay, you're out of the scene. And clearly nobody did that.
Yeah, and I mean, it even happens in big budget films occasionally, right? Where it's easy, it gets missed, but that was so blatant.
Sometimes it's a formatting issue, like they're formatting for 235 or something. I once went to a screening. I think it was Ghost World, and no, it was the Crumb movie. Doesn't matter. Anyway, they had put it on the screen in the wrong aspect ratio, so it should have been framed out, all that stuff, but it was all showing. So the stuff's actually getting shot, and then it gets formatted later by the projectionist. So it's actually there, and if you put it in the wrong format, you're going to see it. But I don't know if that was true in 1980.
And yeah, I mean, it was fully in the shot too. It's not like it was like, and for a long time. So
the whole shot.
Yeah. So yeah,
but we never saw it again. So
that's true.
Maybe that was the actual first shot of the movie.
There's probably wasn't a lot of time for 2 takes.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were shooting on.
Yeah, fuck it, nobody's gonna notice.
Yeah.
Oh, I just kept thinking and I kind of went comedy with some of my casting. If this was an all-out comedy, I kind of want somebody being pulled down into the sand to reach up for the boom.
That could have been another line of plot that goes through it, is the budget.
I was toying. My cast is a little weighted in 2 different directions, so I can play to one or the other, because you could certainly take this and farce it up like Airplane did.
You could, certainly, yeah. But I think there's the bones there for a good horror movie as well.
And I'm thinking horror comedy. I brought up Piranha 3D, and that really sticks in my brain, where you can have something over the top gory and yet still funny.
Yes. Yeah, and that would work, especially considering it's called Blood Beach.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it just lends itself to that, right?
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't super bloody, to be honest.
No, it was hardly bloody.
Although they did have the under sand cam.
Yeah.
That one lady who gets pulled under and suddenly she's naked. Because I guess the clothes had all got pulled off by the sand or the beast or whatever.
Or they just had to have enough so that they had that bee in there.
They certainly were using the Corman model there.
Totally.
We need some breasts every 15 minutes or so. Keep people's interest, and God knows they did.
Yeah, because they distract them from the fact that I have no plot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe it was just the thing, when you think of people's clothes, that's just their peel, and you don't eat it.
Oh,
yes.
They're bananas.
And it was the 80s, so there was a lot of polyester. So no natural fiber. So this monster actually understands. Cotton actually doesn't taste too bad, but the sisters is not.
Polyester will back you up.
Oh, totally. Right? I mean, they might have actually, that could have been the thing that took it down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Skin tight polyester. I thought it was
a jumpsuit.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed the horror aspect of this. Like, I do like B horror films. And so for me watching this, it was like, on first watch, I was like, hey, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
On second watch, it was like, I'm actually really enjoying this. Like, it was, the corn ball was there, the B level.
Yeah,
or C
it's
level.
fun in its simplicity.
Yeah. And most times when you go in for a horror movie, you're not looking for a plot. At least not this type of, like, monster plots,
Yeah, they don't waste any time. They get right to it.
Yes. Right? I mean, like, the first 5 minutes, there's...
Yeah, the plot is the murders, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, and the murders and trying to figure out what's causing the murders. And that's exactly this type of horror.
Yeah, they don't do a very good job with it. But you
Right.
got your detectives, and one's just snarky, and...
They're just all idiots.
Yeah.
Like, let's face it. They're all idiots. The fact that to the dialogue and to the actual idea of what we're doing to find this was, like, stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, digging up the beach was a good move.
Yeah.
Expensive, but a good move.
Yeah.
But the other problem I had is the sergeant, and I can't remember the actor or the character, because that's what I do. I couldn't understand a fucking word he said most of the time because the sound effects were like overlaid so heavily.
Played by Burt Young?
Yes, yeah. And he's a great actor. I've always enjoyed seeing him on screen, but he really went into that East Coast mumble, and then with the sound effects over top of him, I'm like, and subtitles weren't available, so I couldn't figure. Half the time, I didn't know what the hell he said.
Yeah, sound design was terrible. Yeah. All right, well, let's throw a trailer at you, and we'll be right back.
Pretty, isn't it? The beaches of L.A., playground of America. Until this beach turned into a living nightmare.
You said creature. Why did you use that word?
I don't know. What would you call it?
Blood Beach, man.
Yeah, right on.
Blood Beach.
The beach is a weird beat for us cops. You've got the kids, the old people, the street fiddlers, those singles, the crazies all lost in their own world. There was every form of human life on this beach.
Madras Bermudas, bleeding Madras. They were kind of old, but they were his favorite pair. They were still in good condition.
But under the beach, there was this horrible thing. And we still haven't figured it out.
What the hell are we looking for? I don't know. But maybe if we dig deep enough, we'll find out.
We police always look for the obvious, but this wasn't normal. Nah, not even for California.
Doctors figure that there's been considerable brain damage.
How considerable?
Vegetable soup. When something like this is chasing you,
if it's human, or even if it's animal, it's got to have a place to go back to.
Kind of sad the way things have changed, huh, Mr. Sullivan?
if there was any hope, we didn't have it. We didn't know a damn thing.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, you can't get to it.
There comes a time when you throw out all the rules and you make your move. Blood Beach is an okay place to visit, but I wouldn't want to die there.
Blood Beach. David Huffman, Mariana Hill, John Saxon, and Burt Young as Lieutenant Boyko. Blood Beach, where the water may be the safest place to be.
That trailer was awesome.
It was a great 80s trailer. I love the little grindhouse stuff, and anybody who's listened to the Cult Movie Trailer or Go-Go specials we do in January know how much I love trailers like this. I may have actually used this one. Can't remember.
I don't remember either. There's been 4 of them now.
Yeah. You're going to get another one this year. That's a tradition.
Sweet.
This was a story based on Steven Nolovansky's script. He wrote Prime Suspect. The story and screenplay was also by the director Jeffrey Bloom. It's hard to believe it took 2 guys to write this.
It's hard to believe it took 1.
Jeffrey Bloom is no stranger to horror movies. He's done Flowers in the Attic and Nightmares.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
He's done better stuff. Yeah, he got better. Right, and this is an early film. I think I read an article that this was his sort of first attempt, and he did have trouble with getting anybody to even get interested in it.
Yeah, keep it low budget. And I imagine this was a, still very early into VHS, but this would have been like at the drive-ins as a C movie. You know, it'd have been like if you got 3 going at the drive-in, it's the last one.
Yeah. Or the first one before everybody shows up, right? It's one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got Piranha.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great combo right there.
End it with Jaws 4.
This stars, and I use that loosely, David Huffman as Harry Calder. He was in Firefox.
Yes.
Yeah. Mariana Hill was Catherine Hutton. I saw this one fairly recently. She was in a movie called The Baby. Really good. The Baby's really good. I saw it on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In, and it was shockingly good. Burt Young was Sergeant Royko, and he was in Rockies 1 through 5.
Yes. And then he was in this.
And this.
But you saw the devaluation of his
That's the thing, though.
Power.
Like, he was already in Rocky before this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
but he was in 5 also before this. So
Yes, but he also yo-yos much like John Saxon. It's like he's one of those guys that you've seen in that thing that one time, and he just takes whatever is given to him, right? And he's still working.
Yeah. Otis Young was Lieutenant Pianadossi. Maybe. I might have screwed that up. He was in The Clones. Lena Passett was Mary. I think she was the stewardess. She was in It Came from the Desert. John Saxon was Captain Pearson. We've definitely talked about John Saxon before. First time was at episode 66.
I didn't write down numbers, but I'm going to go with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nope, Black Christmas.
Okay.
But Nightmare on Elm Street was episode 112.
There we go. I couldn't remember which one we did first.
Daryl Fetty was Hoagie. He was in Endangered Species. Stefan Garish was Dr. Demetrios, and he was in High Plains Drifter, but we may have mentioned him in episode 175.
That was Carrie.
Eleanor Z was Mrs. Selden. She was in What's Up, Doc? Pamela McMyler was Mrs. Hench. She was in Halloween 2. Harriet Medden was Ruth Hutton, and she was in episode 295?
Yeah, speaking of Roger Corman, Death Race 2000.
That's right. Mickey Fox was Moose, and yeah, he's been in a couple as well. 140.
I only got one.
Eat My Dust.
Yes. Also Roger Corman.
And episode 167. Metal Storm.
I missed that one.
Destruction of Jared Sin without the destruction.
At least Blood Beach is an honest title.
Yeah,
I
right?
like that.
Yeah, you can't call it the destruction of Jared Sin if he lives through the movie. Julie Dolan was Karen, and she was in Beverly Hills Cop 3, and that kind of rounds out our cast.
Yes. Lots of Corman alumni in there.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you, Sam. I think the acting, they all did a good job with what they had. Like, they didn't have lots to work with, but they took it seriously.
Yeah, no, I think the acting is far better than this movie deserves.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's certainly undermined by everything else.
Like everything else.
The cinematographer, the sound guy, like everything. They all must have been
the costumers.
Yeah, they all must have been pretty embarrassed.
Yeah, for a lot of them, I suspect that it was just probably a first or early career film, like horror typically is, right? And that's why I tend to be more forgiving of these low-budget horror films, because these are people who are probably just starting out. They're trying to build their resume, build their careers, and so you'd forgive a lot.
Yeah, and they're probably selling this on, okay, they're using a Jaws plot, horror's big right now, could be made cheap and pumped out quick, and it always makes money. And there's just lots coming out, so they probably sold it on that premise to these actors.
Exactly, and it probably did make money. Maybe not a lot, but it probably did.
It says from the, Mr. Google and friends that it did make money, and the budget was about $2 million.
Where was it?
Yeah,
it was all the actors.
Cast, it would have been the cast.
Yeah, and sets. I mean, they're working on a public beach, right? So they probably would a lot of location fees.
I think they're probably shooting it on short ends.
Yeah.
But if you think of Jaws being like the predecessor to these types of films, and you think that, okay, they've had enough things try to kill you in the water, I'd like the evolution of it. But you can't even get to the water now, or maybe you're in the water and you're safe, but when you come back out to get on your towel, then we're going to get you. So I think, especially if this was released in the summer,
it
would have been like a great drive-in movies. Like, oh my God, I finally got back in the water after 2 years after Jaws. now I'm afraid to go back to the water.
I was traumatized by Jaws as a kid. It's a good thing I didn't see this one into my teens.
Yeah, it's like, now I can't even go to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Where can I go? Where is it safe? Coney Island. That's it.
Yeah, stay on the boardwalk.
This would never happen in Chicago.
Yeah, that's the thing, Sam. If you couldn't figure out what he was saying, it's always about Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, I got that as it progressed, but yeah, it was brutal. And the funny thing is, he was the most interesting character in the movie.
Yeah,
and the homeless lady.
I like John Saxon a lot just because he just delivered with gusto.
Yes, I mean John Saxon's always a joy to watch. I mean, but his character didn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He plays the same character though. Like, has anyone seen him stretch his acting abilities? Like, when you have a character that's pigeonholed and that's all they can do, it's kind of like, are you really a good actor? Are you really just playing an annoying version of yourself?
There's several A-listers that we can point that finger to, but really only comes down to it. If he only has one character, do we like it? Great.
Yeah. I mean, true enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, we've known actors who've tried to get out of their comfort zone and people do not like it. Like, they totally revolt. They're like, we don't want you to be that. Be this thing all the time.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Will Ferrell. Yep. And you know what? I wish that he would lose that character. He's getting too old to play the man-child. Same like Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems, he's doing stuff. Will Ferrell in that one where he was a character in a book.
Yeah,
They got it.
Yeah, Stranger Than Fiction, which was really good.
That's the thing with comedic actors, that like that whole wave of people, I can't stand any of them in their comedic roles, but when they go into a dramatic role, I'm like all over it.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, you can't pay me to watch a Ben Stiller comedy, but you could put something like Walter Mitty or Permanent Midnight. I'll watch them all day.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to this movie.
Sorry.
Oh, right. Yeah, but maybe some of these people we're talking about may end up in our cast.
Not mine, but maybe.
Well, as you're talking about you're afraid of the water and then you're afraid of the beach, it just made me think of something, and I don't know if this is a direction we can go in, but if you had like little kind of monster babies or jellyfish babies, like they grow in the sea and people are getting stung, so they go to the beach and they just drive people to the beach where they get eaten.
Or like really make it intelligent and have it hurting.
That's a neat idea. So if you have this kind of uni-mind, which is like the thing that lives on the beach, the thing that ate Boba Fett.
Sarlacc.
So we got the Sarlacc creature on the beach, and its babies go out into the water, or it's Remora maybe, and their function is to drive people back to the beach into this gaping maw that's waiting for them.
Yeah, or even you think about like in nature now, where you have like killer whales or dolphins where they pool the fish. And it's really just also helping the seagulls that are on top of the water. So it's like there's a symmetry that happens between the wild kingdom, Mutual of Omaha.
Symbiotic relationships.
Yeah. I like it. This is a remake. I see it's coming now.
Yay!
Yeah, I would like to have that happening later in the movie. Just because part of what I liked about this movie was the you don't know if it's a monster or not, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think we should start it off. We're seeing killings. We don't know who's doing it. Well, we as an audience probably know, but we needed that doubt with the detectives. I like all that stuff. Want to make it super gory, and we build to that reveal.
Yeah, we need to make it clear that there's been some sort of physical harm to somebody. So instead of just getting sucked into the beach, you have like a burst of blood out from the sand, or you get people who are, like, their torso comes off before the rest of it gets sucked into the sand. Like, really lean into that.
Well, that fabulous poster. I want a scene that is indicative of that poster, where you're seeing the bits of meat coming off the person before they're fully sucked into the sand.
Yeah. Right. And they kind of set that up with the girl on the beach where they've buried her in the sand, and she comes up and her legs are all torn up, sort of. Yeah, but she's never going to walk right again.
But it really is just smeared blood.
Yeah, it was. It was just a little.
Yeah. I was like, she's never going to walk again because she got dye on her.
It was ketchup.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing too, right? Because she was lying flat, and everybody else was like upright, right? So they're getting sucked into it. But the thing that I like, if you fast forward to the end of the film where they find all these body parts, it's kind of like, okay, so how did that happen where little body parts would just like fall off?
Yeah, it wasn't consuming them. It was like storing them, right? And that didn't make sense to me in context with anything, right? I mean, I know that there are animals that do store food for future use. Like, crocodiles are a good example.
Squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels, yeah. Yeah, gators have meat lockers, right? They like their meat a little bit rotten, right? So you'd have to lean into that a little bit as well if you want to keep that aspect of the story.
Yeah.
Did anybody else feel like this kind of inspired Tremors a little bit?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh
totally.
yeah. You
totally.
got the transient who's hiding off the beach so he doesn't get eaten.
Yeah.
And you had the sergeant, right? That was like, let's blow it up real good in Chicago. This will blow up all the time.
Yep.
Which is kind of like the Michael Gross character.
Yeah.
I want you to play that part.
It's funny how like Jaws influenced this, how horror gets evolved as a new film that comes out, right? It's like, and then Tremors, you know, if the guys from Tremors saw this movie and said, you know what, we just make a better version of this movie and, you know, put it in Texas in a town, still sand.
Yeah, and they do bear a striking resemblance for sure.
Yeah.
Except one's entertaining.
Yes. Well, they're both entertaining in their own
one
ways.
has Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
They might be the same movie. They might not be. I'll leave it up to you to decide.
I want to talk about our homeless lady.
She was awesome.
She was awesome. And I kind of wanted her to know more than she does.
Yes.
Right? Because they kind of set it up like she would, and then they never went anywhere with it.
Well, I think she should be in the background of like all the scenes. She sees it all.
She says, you know what I want? I want her to be a disciple of this thing, whether she knows it exists, like she worships it in her own way, right? Like she doesn't come in contact with it and it's not like she's serving it, but I think that I wanted her to be sort of aware of it and in her own way ensuring that it survives, right?
Yes.
I'm not sold on this.
Yeah, didn't have fully fleshed, but because of the way they presented her in the film early on, like as sort of this fortune teller person where she's talking to characters and telling them things about their lives, right? I kind of thought, well, why not lean into that and make her, she's a homeless person, so
yeah, okay.
We have the why,
if
right?
you play with that, like, because I want her to be in shock from what she's witnessed living on the beach, right? And this is trauma with her, but if she actually is some kind of soothsayer, sees the future, has some sort of predictions, she can have those crazy moments where walking up to this person, you're going to die on the beach, stay away from the beach or whatever. And sure enough, that person does.
Yeah. No, and I think that is a good way to go with her. I just want more from her. And I want her to think of it as a god.
Yeah, she can. She could say the god of the sand is going to eat you as a sacrifice.
Yes.
I mean, she's still terrified of it.
Yeah.
But she talks in that kind of Nostradamus way. Yeah. And of course, everybody thinks she's crazy.
Yes.
So nobody's going to take her seriously anyway. They're just rantings of a lunatic.
Yeah, and that's what I want more from her is to feed the story rather than just be a character.
And it works in that way, and it doesn't change her too much.
Yeah.
It's a little tropey, but I kind of like it.
Well, they hint at what you could have as well as she's the monster, the god is taking back the beach, because they talk about it several times in this movie where there's places where people go like, you used to be here? Like it's garbage everywhere. It's in a bit of disarray. Like people are talking about how the beach quote unquote used to be and it's not anymore.
Yeah, and she was an originator of the beach.
Yeah, well, and if she can partake that information, that's great. You know, we know a little bit more about the way things used to be, and that forwards a commentary on how we treat nature. And horror works best when there is a commentary.
It does, yeah.
Or you could have her that, Sam, you could have it that she was helping feed the monster when she got the worship down, right? That she conquered her fear. And then she was bringing people to the monster, not necessarily directly, but
yeah, that's a tricky thing to work because that's kind of where my mind was going when I first thought about it. But I also like the idea of her being the alarm that nobody's listening to.
Yeah.
because she was kind of set up to be that, and then they never did it.
Yeah. I just kind of want to give her function back.
Yeah.
Kind of like, what's his name in The Thing, where they lock him up in the dock or whatever he is, and they move. He's like, this is, kind of going crazy, but at the same time he's right.
Yes.
And then they have to go lock him up, and then right?
Exactly. And that's exactly it. And with her, the fact that she witnesses Hoagie's death, like that weird scene where she tries to hand him her baby doll.
Yeah.
Like that was really weird. And that's what kind of fed my whole idea for her was.
I liked that. She's like, save my baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or was he, you also take my baby?
Yeah. And that's exactly it, is we'll take this with you because I need to make my sacrifice to the god. That's kind of the way I saw it in my head.
That might have been her motive, trying to offer him protection, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it was definitely up to interpretation, but that's what fed sort of my thoughts on her seeing it as a god and trying to appease it.
Yeah, because she could have actually reached and helped him sooner. Obviously, there was fear that was kind of keeping her from that. But she could have actually maybe helped him, but she didn't.
At the
last minute, she gave her baby.
Again, that's what inspired sort of my idea for her loosely, like I said, but I didn't really have a solid thought. I was hoping you guys would help me work it out, as you do. And I think I like the idea of her being the alarm.
Yeah.
And seeing it as a god. And you could even have that moment where she's tries to sacrifice something of herself, whether it be a possession or something like that, because she feels that that's the only way it will make her safe from it.
When you've got your detective and your Coast Guard who can talk to her, the detective's just blowing this off. It's like, well, she's useless to us as a witness. And the Coast Guard going, no, you just got to know how to talk to her, and taking a little bit more of what she says seriously.
Exactly. Right, and that creates some character dynamic that's missing from this movie. I mean, that is the biggest problem with this movie, is they have characters and actors who can act, but the way the characters are written...
Yeah, there's no connective tissue.
No, none whatsoever. I mean, and they sort of force in this return of the fiancé, and then they like immediately jump back into bed together. It just...
Yeah, trying to give a backstory that...
Isn't necessary.
Well, and it's not there either.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't, not right. It's like they had some really good ideas that they could have fleshed out, but then it didn't connect.
Well, when you talk about him being a suspect, to me that made the most sense when he just bounces right back from like his lady friend dying.
Yeah.
Wasn't serious.
Do you think they could have cut maybe at least one of the cops? And maybe some of the other scenes to develop some of those other things more?
Well, they kind of did. They kind of cut the lieutenant. Like, he was in it for the first, act, and then he just essentially disappeared.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, too, is I felt like there was nobody really starring in this movie. There was nobody I could hang my hat on to who the lead was.
Yeah. And
it took me a long time to figure out it was Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it's clearly supposed to be. I mean, he's the first character you really see.
Yeah.
And as we've established, he's tied to everybody else in the film, right? So we need to make sure that's a lot more apparent with him as a suspect, and maybe even use that device where following him, like he's...
Yeah, well, I mean, we can give him a little bit of story where his life is unraveling because he is a suspect. So he's taken off his own job where he's basically out there trying to save lives.
Yeah.
And now he's not being trusted because he's under investigation, but there's no real proof that he does anything. And so his life's unraveling a little bit. Maybe that's how we can pull in the fiancé.
Exactly. Yeah, just give more motive for that relationship to develop the way it does, or even start developing. They don't need to jump into bed together.
No, he just needs a support system, and they've taken a break, broken up, or whatever. Or maybe she's a specialist, and maybe she's a marine specialist, and he's calling her. It's like, hey, I need to clear my name, and something's weird's going on here. And it could be some biological entity that we just don't know much about.
Yeah, or she's a historian, and she's the one who finds out that maybe there's sort of this ancient native history about this beach, right? Because we talked about it, how the beach is sort of taking itself back, and maybe we could have sort of this myth that actually turns out to be true.
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility.
Yeah, and she could be the one who discovers it, because we have the scientist character who's into the science of it.
Well, that's where I was thinking we can just merge it. It's like, I don't know why we have a coroner doing doctor stuff.
Yeah.
This kind of scientist
Because of
stuff.
Quincy. Because of the Quincy show. This also influenced Quincy.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. It's stretched, but
Love
maybe.
Quincy.
Maybe. So, like, if we kind of pull that character back to be a corner going, hey, these signs are so weird, like, this looks like something.
Well, a corner... Why is there even a corner? There's no fucking bodies.
That's true. Well, I mean, they're looking at the stuff that's left, right? Not everybody.
That wouldn't be a corner. That would be a forensic team.
Well, I mean, that's true. I mean, well, maybe on the dog.
Also bones.
Yeah.
Just saying.
True. When Harry goes looking for the nest, for lack of a better term, that's where maybe we can grab some samples and utilize that and learn more about this creature. Although why something that lives in the sand would want to live in an old shack, I have no idea.
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? It's because that's where people can get to it to make the movie more interesting.
Well, I mean, it's a larder.
There's that.
Like insects. It's a larder. That's where he's...
Yeah. And it is shade, right? So maybe it doesn't do well because it's, if it lives under the sand, then it doesn't do well with the light. So it should be off into something, right?
That or it's the shitter.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and
those bones, the arms and legs and stuff that fell, it was kind of like, this just came out my bunghole.
Yeah.
It was just like, I couldn't process that. I was too busy eating your head.
Yes. There's that polyester again.
It didn't make much sense that it would live in a shack.
No. Well, and it's an abandoned building on the boardwalk, but either way, it's doesn't explain, because if it's able to burrow, why would it choose to live in that? But like you said, a larder. But I like the idea of finding remains, but it turns out that there remain, because I really love the idea of having an ancient history. And I don't know who brought that up. I think it was you even.
Nope.
But
might be me.
It might have been, but yeah, and I was kind of like the idea of tying it back to something in the past, right? So this thing is eternal in its own way, right? Not the thing itself, but its cycle.
See, and I don't know. I don't like any of that. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say it can't really have it, because
I think that just overcomplicates a movie that should be simple.
Yeah, fair enough.
We'd also have seen it before, like unless it comes every 100 years, and that's where the historian part comes to.
Even then, it is a stretch. You're right. I don't know. There's somebody said something that got that stuck in my head, but that's
I think
okay.
It was you.
No, it wasn't me.
But I just kind of wanted to keep it the creature feature that it is, something a little simple. Sure, you can allude to it through scientific investigation if you can pull up a sample of some sort that it might be primordial or prehistoric in nature, but that means we need to have found a sample beforehand within nature. But I think it should become down to biological theory more than anything else, and I think that's enough.
Although it's 80s, so it could be a kaiju that was created from Three Mile Island.
Yeah, I don't want to fill the movie with gobbledygook that doesn't matter. We should be giving the characters more subtext and stuff to do. We don't want to slow down the movie. It should still be kill, kill, kill.
Yes. Right.
That's what kind of made this movie enjoyable in the first place.
Yes.
Who's going next?
No, it's the investigation that falls apart. I think that's why I kind of focused on that. But so if we make Mary a biologist instead, that fills that hole and gives her a dual purpose, right? She's not just there as another character.
His life's falling apart, and he's looking for somebody to help clear his name.
Yeah. Or somebody, she's just connected to the investigation, right?
Yeah.
And,
maybe she's brought in as an expert.
Yes, and
she's a local expert.
Exactly.
Yeah, simple.
Right, very simple. And I again, because it just appears, I think it'd be interesting, at least if we found out that there were other places where this had happened, like along the coast of South America, like just a little bit, because things that just appear always kind of bug me.
We just had some massive, massive hurricanes on the coast. Yeah. That washes things up all the time and restructures coasts.
Yeah.
When they're very intense. I think we should just go with something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
some natural occurrence.
What's changed? I need that. What's changed?
Well, and I think with doing that environmental theme, we just keep pulling on that a little bit. Like, don't be heavy-handed on it, but that's what's causing this. Is we're changing the environment. We're making these storms worse. We're making everything worse. And now things are coming up that should have stayed buried.
Yep.
I mean, we haven't discovered everything in the oceans.
No.
Far from it.
Yeah. But at the same time, this isn't an ocean-dwelling creature. This is
I think it might have come from, like, you know, if you could pull it from some deep trench and stuff. I mean, I bet you this thing would have fed on whales.
Potentially.
Right. I mean, that's just something you can utilize, put a character like our biologist, Catherine, and have her throw out theories like that.
Yeah, she could do that for sure. I mean, I think you're right about the idea of a major storm, and maybe it washed out a remote beach that nobody ever went to because it was inaccessible, right? And that's why it's moved, because its hunting ground is gone, right? It used to feed on small animals, but now it's got people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't care what animal it has. It's not sentient.
Yeah. I think that's a nice, simple, and even elegant solution to it, right? It's forced to move because of environmental changes.
And I was thinking it can move because even at the bottom of the ocean, you can still have sand underneath. That's not like
you typically do,
permeating
right?
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can migrate under great distances if it's at the bottom of the ocean. It's still under sand.
Yeah. Well, and you'd have to think, how does it breathe under sand? Just like worms. And
that's where it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably using the nutrients around it to sustain it. I mean, including the people and things above the sand.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry. We really delved into what this creature is and given the science.
all the science that really doesn't matter in the gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But
no, and all I want is to sort of...
But we like to make things make sense.
Yeah, we need it to make sense as to why it's happening
And we
now.
do need, if we're going to have Catherine be this character, we do need her to say some of this stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, when did this start happening? Oh, wait, we had that typhoon or hurricane or that storm.
Mm-hmm. You can
2 days
and
before,
like
right?
Typhoons, hurricanes.
You can even make that.
Often.
You can even make that cold open.
Yes, is the storm? Yeah.
Yeah.
They also could have made like they brought the Dr. Demetrius in, who you saw earlier in it as a doctor, but they did talk at some point about a geologist, like them pulling in a geologist. So they could have had Dr. Demetrius' character actually been still a minor character at the hospital, and then they pulled into a geologist who did sort of see other things. It could have been that character that might have been, and didn't necessarily have to be Catherine. To me, that almost would have made it more coincidental. Whereas if they pulled in a geologist, just like they kind of did with, like in Godzilla when they brought Matthew Broderick's character in.
Yeah, maybe you go to Demetrius. It's like, this is way above me.
Yeah.
Go talk to this guy over at this institute.
Right. And instead of a storm, it's an earthquake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That happens on the coast all the time too.
Exactly.
So it depends on what coast we put it.
Yeah. If you're on the East Coast, it's hurricanes. If you're on the West Coast, earthquake makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So either or, I think, works. I'm not going to put my money on either one of them.
But either one could be like you said, a great cold open.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just need a beach.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'm perfectly happy with not knowing where the creature comes from.
Yeah, you don't need the specifics.
I'm perfectly happy with it.
You could even use the blob origin. Asteroid, biological.
Yeah.
I'm always good with that. Something came from space.
Or, with the earthquake, some magma comes up. It's pulling stuff up.
I like the nuclear
below.
one too. Like, it's the 80s. They had,
Yeah. There's so much we could do there, and it all's fine, but some of it becomes a little bit more of a stretch. You just need that one character to Christopher Lloyd it.
Yeah.
Throw a bunch of stuff at you and be entertaining while doing it.
That's right. And then have a Michael Gross character that goes crazy to try and kill it.
Yeah. Which probably should be our Harry character, because he's got motive now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. He needs to clear his name.
Yes, he does.
Then they blast it and all the spores are released, and then there's tiny little ones that are everywhere.
And then it influenced Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah. I don't think there's really any other characters we need to change too much. I mean, they're basically presented as victims anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We just need more carnage to carry us through the boring bits. And
yes.
Yeah.
Right. And fix those boring bits. I mean, the whole Hoagie sub-story there, right, with him being a musician and having his performance, right, it was...
Honestly, I think it was just time fill.
That's all it was. That's all it was.
But they could have filled that with better character development of the other major characters.
Yeah, or more killings.
Yeah. Well, killings cost money, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, it couldn't have cost that much to pull people into the sand.
What they could have done is like Hoagie should have been the person who's suspicious. He's like, wow, a lot of people die when you're around.
Yeah.
Or he could be it's a monster theorist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, because he was supposed to be a quirky character. I mean, he never quite delivered that as far as I was concerned, but he was supposed to be. So you could have him be that quirky character. He's the guy who's been living on the beach his entire life, has no intention of ever leaving. Mm-hmm. Right? And yeah, he's one step away from being the homeless lady character.
Yes. Except he has a job.
He's the surfer guy.
Yeah, surfer dude.
Yeah. Right? And I mean, I'm fine with him being a musician and all that stuff. That's fine. But, you don't need to spend 10 minutes of your screen time at his bar show.
Yeah. No, that was clearly just to fill in time.
Yeah.
We don't have much here, and we need to get up to 90 minutes.
But they could have had him, like they could have, maybe your earlier point, Sam, is where they're trying to make this more of a detective story. They could have actually had him be potentially the killer. They could have had Harry be the killer. They could have had the homeless person be the killer, and that we're still trying to figure it out. But because we see what happens on the beach, it's you kind of know right away, because there can't be a human that's actually.
Yeah, I don't think it's a case of this movie needs to be a mystery to the audience.
No, but it doesn't.
But we do need the cops to be very resistant to the monster theory.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want them to even have it.
And they should have lots of suspects. Yeah. I mean, sure, with all the victims connecting up to Harry, but we could bounce them around a little bit. Well, we need to look at this guy and this guy. And it's the detectives who should be introducing us to these characters a little bit more, because they're trying to get to know them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's what made it entertaining, was the mystery of the monster and the fact that the detectives shouldn't have known there was a monster as early as they did.
Yeah.
Right? Or shouldn't even been theorizing there was a monster as early as they did.
Yeah. Well, I think we got a fairly decent framework here. I'd like to move into some fantasy casting.
Okay.
I didn't do too much, so I'm actually going to lead off and we'll get Jim to go next.
Okay.
Yeah, because mostly I couldn't figure out which character was who, and nobody felt important to me.
It was hard.
So
that's why I had to watch it a second time.
And I've had a rough week, so I couldn't concentrate very well this week. For my director, let's just go with Old Faithful here. Alexandre Aja. This has I think it needs that Piranha feel to it. Just go over the top with the gore effects and have fun with it and have some devious characters. I might change the character, the rapist character, and do something else there, but somebody similarly lecherous.
No, that was something I wanted to bring up, was the fact that they had that rapist character and they didn't do anything with him afterwards. It's like, oh, look, I think we got our guy. We never got that.
No, he should have always been a suspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then they tested his penis.
Well, no, that was missing.
Where he had the penis.
Yeah. Well, everybody in this movie sucks. For Harry, I went with Wyatt Russell. You might remember him as John Walker, U.S. agent on Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Thought he had a similar look. For Catherine, I went with Tessa Thompson. Now we got enough star power there to drive our movie. Nice. For Sergeant Royko, I went with Dirk Blocker from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think Trish would appreciate that one.
I do, and I actually kind of went in a similar vein, if I'm honest. I almost cast him.
For Lieutenant Piantidosi, I went with Michael Potts from True Detective.
Okay.
I got a weird mix here this go around. For Captain Pearson, I kept thinking to try to capture that John Saxon vibe. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't do it. You just got to do a new character. And I'm like, well, who's Alexandre worked with? Let's bring back Ving Rhames. I love that. He's older now. I think that would be great to have him be the yelling sergeant, right? Or the yelling captain. And Dr. Demetrios, I wanted to make him a bit quirky, so I went with John C. McGinley from Scrubs.
Oh, that's great.
And I kind of ended there because after that, nobody felt important enough for me to bother with.
Yes.
Okay, so I kind of went in a completely different way than what you're going.
Fine.
I went, this is a big budget remake. This is like, if I had unlimited money, if I had $2 million in 80s money and today's money, who would I be getting? So, for the director, I chose Takashi Miike as the director. I picked, for Harry, I was kind of going, he had that kind of Baywatch vibe. So I was like, who do I see as could be potentially from Baywatch? So I chose one of two. One was either going to be Zac Efron or it would have been The Rock. Because it would have been like, they already do the Baywatch. So it would have been
fair enough.
Catherine's character, I picked, okay, so who do I think is the most intelligent person in this? And also who I'm in love with. So I picked Lupita Nyong'o. And
Nice.
for Sergeant Royko, I thought, first I was trying to go, well, maybe I could pick someone like Danny DeVito, but then I decided on Michael Pena to play Sergeant Royko.
Oh.
I think he would have nailed it for the humor side of it.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
almost went Danny DeVito there.
did you? I was like debating that, and then I was like, no, I couldn't do it. I had to, yeah. That character is just so good, and so I wanted to find somebody who has that comedy timing that we have now. The lieutenant, I went in a completely different way. I went Zachary Quinto, because I think he can have that stoic nature to his abilities, and he could have been much more intimidating in the role. For Marie, Harry's girlfriend, I picked Anna Taylor-Joy. I thought she would have done a great job. Captain Pearson, I was originally going to go with Michael Ironside to try and stay inside Canada. But I ended up going with...
I think he's past retirement ages.
No, he's still acting.
No, I meant for a character.
Yeah.
But in that position, I think he's getting a little on where he probably wouldn't be in that position anymore.
Yeah, I just love him and everything he does.
Me too.
So to replace John Saxton, I picked John Leguizamo. For Hoagie, it was a one of twofer, a brother between one of the brothers, either Owen or Luke Wilson. Didn't matter which one. For Dr. Demetrius, anytime there's a doctor character that could have been quirky, I'll always insert David Cronenberg. Because I chose Takashi Miike to direct it, I thought David Cronenberg would jump at the chance to work with him, so I picked that.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hench, which is a very small character, I still picked either Juliette Lewis or Winona Ryder because her character was a little crazy, and those two do crazy pretty good. Ruth, the mom, because I picked Lupita Nyong'o, I picked my future wife, Viola Davis, to play the mom. And Moose, which you don't really get to see very much, but I picked Leah Delaria, who plays Big Boo from Orange is the New Black, because I found that character was probably one of the only characters in it that could have been trans. So, or that had an LGBTQ potential in that time frame. So I wanted to pick some more diversity in it. And then finally for Mrs. Selden, I was originally going to go with Lily Tomlin, but instead I went with my diehard Veronica Cartwright.
Both very good choices.
Veronica Cartwright, but in this movie, we're going to tell her what's happening. Poor lady, so many times. They never tell her this is what's going to happen in the movie.
Oh, Alien is just the best, and she is just a god.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, they did that to her again.
Oh, yeah, the end of that movie. She's just, I melt when I see her on screen.
She's so good.
Trish, why don't you give us your cast?
All right. So, again, I said I went a little bit more comedy in mine because I was like, let's lean into it. It's called Blood Beach. So for my Harry Calder, I think you might like this, Jason. I chose Alan Ritchson from Blood Drive.
Okay.
Because he can do comedy. On Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he does a great young Scully.
Yeah, he was good.
And then for Catherine Hutton, I just went down the same road with Christina Ochoa because I'm like, let's just pair them up again. Seems fun.
If you're going to do grindhouse characters, you might as well pull from Grindhouse.
Yep.
Exactly. Sergeant Royko, Jason Mantzoukas.
Another 9-9.
Yep, exactly. Lieutenant Piantadosi, Chris Rock. Because he's kind of trying to get into that with Saw. He likes the horror movies. So I'm like, let's put him in
You
it.
just lost Jay. You know that, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm already not seeing this movie.
Yeah, he was so awful in that movie.
No, but I'm like, he's going to get a better chance in this movie because it's going to be comedy. We're going to make this character work for him. If he wants to do it, we're going to get him to do it in a movie that's going to suit him.
Fair enough.
For Captain Pearson, I went with CCH Pounder.
Huh?
She's got quite the presence, and I think she'd make a great captain.
It's been a while since I've seen her too. She might be a little too old for that role, but I
might.
mean, the way I envision her, she'd be great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then for I thought Marie was the friend of Hoagie's because I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do with that, and I thought there might be a song. I don't know to pad time, but just for fun. But it's not Marie; it's another name. But his girlfriend, Vella Lovell from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, she's got a great voice. She's very funny. And then for Hoagie, I went with Josh Groban.
Nice.
He does actually. He's actually pretty good.
Funny. Yeah, I mean, he can be quite funny. He knows what he's doing. For my Dr. Demetrios, I went with Danny DeVito there.
Nice.
I feel they have the same energy. And for the homeless lady, Lorraine Bracco.
Nice.
I thought she might do very well here.
I like that
And
choice.
for a director, I went with Oz Perkins. I would like to kind of maybe toast that line. He can do comedy, but he can also do really dark. So I would like to see him do this.
So love him.
I just thought, can I add one to my cast?
Yes.
For Hoagie, Pete Davidson.
Oh yeah, that could work.
Nice.
Yeah, I know why you did too.
Yeah, you do. But it's in my brain now.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that would work.
The funny thing is actually he was the first one to pop into my head too, so I get it. I've cast him recently. I did something else though.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I get to go next. So I went with we can afford this budget. So
same as me, obviously.
Yeah. Henry Calder, I went with Luke Grimes from Yellowstone. Because I kind of wanted him to sort of have that sort of scruffy ex-military, but doesn't really want to look military anymore kind of guy.
Yeah.
For my Catherine Hutton, I went with Jessica Parker Kennedy from The Flash and Black Sails. For my Captain Pearson, I went with Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes.
I think that he'd make a great captain in that role, especially when he takes the town council to task.
Yeah.
For my Lieutenant Plantadosi, I almost didn't cast him because he kind of disappeared, but I went with Stephen Yeun.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Because we kind of envisioned him as sort of new to his new role as a lieutenant, and I thought you could have some fun with that dynamic with the older sergeant and this young lieutenant who doesn't really know what he's doing yet as a lieutenant. For my Sergeant Royko, I went with Christopher Maloney.
He's good.
Because this wouldn't have happened in Chicago, and I could hear those lines coming out of his mouth.
Nice.
You know, actually, I would love to have is like, when I was in the SVU, we never let anybody get away with this shit.
Nice.
For my Hoagie, I went with Clark Duke. He's mostly done like TV and comedy, but he's got that energy that I was kind of getting from Hoagie, or what I thought we were supposed to get from Hoagie. I didn't cast the doctor. I completely forgot about him. For my Mrs. Selden, I cast Amanda Plummer. That's the homeless lady.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Okay. So, and I thought I think she'd be perfect in it because she does crazy so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea until last night that she is the daughter of Canadian legend Christopher Plummer.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Never made the connection. And then for my director, because I wanted the tension that I was feeling was supposed to be there in the original movie, I went with S. Craig Zahler, the director of Bone Tomahawk.
Nice.
Because he does a great job of slow, not showing you much, and then all of a sudden, boom, violence all over the place.
Yeah, that'd be so good.
Yeah, slow, then slaughter.
Yes.
Ah!
That movie is so good.
Yeah, it is. Right.
Kill, murder.
Yeah. So yeah, he had I knew he could do what I was feeling was supposed to come out of the original version of this movie.
Yeah, I could see that vision.
Yes.
Cool. Y'all had good casts.
All completely different.
Very different tones, very different feels.
But you know what? On each of your casts, there's a few where I'm like, I'm jealous. I should have done that.
It just shows you the versatility of this plot.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's funny how each person had the vision for the movie they wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people they picked, they knew they could deliver on those because they knew what they wanted from each character, and then how you saw that happening was well done for everybody.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun. Is like, okay, you're trying to come up with the story while you're casting, or at least a direction where you want these characters to be.
Mm. Yeah, okay, so who could you get to write it? That's the tough part.
Us.
So yeah, okay, well then that's...
just did
This
it.
is the whole
Where
point of
were
it.
you?
But I mean actually write it. We could give them, here's our pitch, elevator pitch. There is the pitch.
Yeah.
I think if we sat down in a room for
I have
over a week,
screenwriting credits. I can do it.
There you go.
I don't, but I'd give it a good college shot.
I can guarantee you we could write better dialogue than was in this movie.
That's true. We could definitely do that.
Yeah.
And we could spend probably just a weekend and do it.
We did it in an hour and a half.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we've come up with something that on a very loose structure and figured out what was wrong with it. With like losing all that character development in the original, that needs to be the driving force behind the movie, with the murders being the catalyst for all of it, right? And having lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of murders.
Yes.
Or deaths. Sorry, they're not murders, they're deaths.
Blood, gore, you name it.
More deaths.
Yeah, I want the...
No CGI, keep it all practical.
Yeah, I want the Nightmare on Elm Street Fountain of Blood kind of gore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I was going to put Jim Henson's Creature Shop as the people who made that monster.
Nice. That would be good. And go get Tom Savini in there for some of the
yes
effect side of it. Yeah. Just like, send more cops, send more paramedics.
There's not much to the story. There really isn't. But what they did have had a lot of potential to be a fun, tense film or a really fun comedy. Like Trish was saying, or you were saying, is that it does have the possibility for both.
Yeah.
Right? Clearly, I was thinking more high tension,
yeah,
get under your skin horror. But we could, you still need humor in those films anyhow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have too much tension, it's really tough on you when it finally reaches a peak because you've never had a break from it.
Nothing to unwind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I'm sure glad you guys got me to watch it. So
well, we're happy to have you, Jim. And Jim's got his own show with his co-host. It's called Film Rage. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
So Film Rage, we're coming up on our 3rd anniversary here, the middle of November. And our podcast is about usually an hour. It's a new release, so we focus on new films in cinema. And our idea is to go see the movies first and tell you whether or not it's worth seeing or not, based on our tastes. And so there's 3 of us, myself, Jim, and Bryce, and Murray. Murray is more of our engineer, and he's the everyman, we call Murray. So for mainstream cinema, Murray would be your person to go through. And then you have, I call us snobby douchebag film lovers, Bryce and I, who we both have our things that we prefer in film, but ultimately our favorite genre is international dramas. So we're right at home in film festivals. So we just came out of a big film festival, and so we've had huge joygasm. But you can find us on social media, Film Rage YYC, and on our website, filmrageyyc.com.
Awesome.
And on TikTok.
Yeah, we don't do a lot on TikTok. But
so
you're on
go
there.
subscribe to Film Rage.
Yeah, go subscribe, share, like, all that stuff.
Yeah. And you should, if you're not already, if you're just checking us for the first time, hit that subscribe button, and you'll never miss an episode of Invasion of the Remake. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating and a short review on your podcatcher of choice, especially Apple Podcasts. And what's the other one we've been doing good? Podchaser?
Spotify has them too.
Yeah, get them on Spotify, do it all over the place, and help get more
earballs
on this show. Another way you could help out is to direct your friends to our website,
invasionoftheremake.wixsite.com/podcast.
And over there you can find a list of all of our past episodes, as well as a button to our TeePublic Store. You go press that button, you'll get over there. There's lots of cool designs, more coming on the way. Sam's got some new 31 Days of Horror designs that may be up by the time you hear this. We also got a contest running for 31 Days of Horror. And if you send us your list of movies you watched over October, that's 31 movies over 31 days of October, send us that list by November 5th. You might get a chance to have that read on the air, but you're also going to get an entry to win a t-shirt from TeePublic.
Yes, you will.
Another way you can gain a bonus entry, though, is go take a selfie with one of our t-shirts, a mug, a poster, something you bought off TeePublic. Send us that selfie. We'll give you another entry into the draw.
Or if you don't do the 31 days lists, we will take a photograph with a design from our store as an entry as well. So you can get 1 or 2 entries.
That's right. So you can either do the selfie or the 31 days of horror or both.
Increase your chances of winning.
That's right. So special thanks to TeePublic for sponsoring this contest. And we wish everybody luck. And we're looking forward to seeing what you've watched over 31 Days of Horror. We're about halfway as of this list, as of this episode. So give us a listen in November when we're going to recap everything we watched in October. It's going to be kind of wild based on some of the stuff Sam and I know have been watching. Yeah. I don't know what Trish has been watching as of yet.
Yes. Yeah, no, we had an interesting discussion last night, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. I watched one just because I knew it was going to be bad.
Sometimes it's got to happen. It's got to happen. All right, well, we'll catch you next week with something horror-related. Until then, I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
And I continue to be Trish.
And I'm the guest, Jim.
And we are out of here.
As of 9 o'clock this morning, there have been 62 reported sightings of what has affectionately come to be known as the creature from Blood Beach. It has been seen as far north as Santa Barbara, south to Baja, east to the locker room of Dodger Stadium, west to Catalina. We have 14 Polaroid pictures, 9 of which are in color, 5 in black and white. It has been described, in some cases with apparently sincere hysteria, as being large and green and hairy, as being small and colorless and bald, as having multiple arms and legs, as having no arms and legs, with and without wings, from 1 to a dozen eyes, slimy, dry, rough, smooth, and in one particularly vivid description, mailed anonymously from Pacoima, it was without a doubt the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, our favorite coroner, Dr. Demetrius, who probably phoned in all these descriptions himself, informs me that we are indeed looking for something non-human, which really narrows things down considerably, because now all we have to do is to direct our attention to something that might be invisible, or as big as a house, or as small as a microbe, or slippery as a grease pig, or as far away as the moon. No sweat, right, folks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go for it. Yeah. Now for the good news. Our beloved councilwoman from the infamous 34th district, the lovely Harriet Crabb, has had a spiritual awakening and decided in all her wisdom to throw her considerable weight in the direction of our very own corner. Now, fellas, what that means is starting this afternoon, we'll probably get a few extra men assigned to this investigation.
All right.
What that means is that unless we produce some results quick, all our asses are going to be in a sling. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So what I want is some creative thinking around here. Come on, stretch your minds, tickle your brains, eat a lot of fish, get stoned, I don't care what it takes, but just bring me something I can build on. Bring me a notion, bring me a theory that makes sense. Talk to your friends, talk to your kids, talk to your wives if you have to. I don't care what you have to do. Just bring me a gift. Because I'm hanging on by my fingernails and I'm sliding fast. So if you ever loved me, now's the time to prove it.